Hey, all you rad dads out there.
Okay, Brendan, Jared, thanks for joining me on the Rad Dad Show. I'm going to start the way I always do, and that's by asking, who are you? Whoever wants to go first.
You go, Brendan. Okay, I'll go.
Yeah.
My name's Jared. I play bass in Mercy Music and Not. I have a daughter. She's 3.5. Her name's Violet. And we have a second daughter on the way. She's due
Amazing.
September 27th.
Congratulations. That's exciting.
Yeah. Thank you. It's very exciting. Violet is very excited to have a sister.
Yeah. So you guys found out what you're having. Did you do the same thing when you were having Violet?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we just did
sex-wise?
it. Yeah, right when the lady doing the ultrasound was like, "Do you want to know?" And we were like, "Yeah, no big deal."
Yeah.
We didn't want to make a big thing out of it.
You guys are on the same page about that. Like some people, they kind of struggle with that decision, right? Or maybe it's something that drives a wedge too.
Yeah, we didn't. We just wanted to know. There was enough going on. We didn't need to add any other like stress or questions to the equation.
You're a planner. I can tell because you were here 30 minutes early. So I'm the same way. We found out right away when we could too. And it just helps us pick the stuff for the bedrooms and whatever.
Yeah, there's other things to be thinking about.
Right. Yeah, agreed. And what about you, Brendan? So I'll get you to introduce yourself and let us know I guess the family dynamic.
My name's Brendan. I play guitar and sing in Mercy Music, and I play guitar and Not, and I guess I have three children. Cecilia just turned 16 yesterday. My son Riot, who's 14, and my youngest son B, who is 7.
So you have a full house. Wow.
Yes, I do.
Well, I think I read it. I read an interview with you from like a number of years ago, and there was like a slight mention at the end about kids. Like, oh, we talked about his kids too. I was like, wow. So I knew you obviously had a little bit older kids as well.
Yeah, I started before everybody before everybody else.
Yeah.
So
how old were you? 20?
I was 20 when I had my daughter. Yeah, my oldest.
Yeah. So that's pretty young. Like what was that like for you? I guess as a 20-year-old gonna be a dad right away. So I had my first when I was 30, I guess, and I didn't feel prepared at that time.
That's the thing, like no matter where you're at in life, like if you're financially secure or whatever, like nothing you do can prepare you. I don't think anybody can ever feel that. Like things could be maybe a little bit easier, but
can I show that picture of you when you were holding Cecilia, like the day after she was born, that you posted yesterday?
Sure.
Yeah, check this out.
Oh my God.
Okay, hold on. I need to like pin this on the screen. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, you look like about what a dad of a newborn at 20 years old should look like.
Yeah, I think I was leaving to play a show that night, actually, which is hilarious.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah, I know. No, I was terrified, and the number one question I got from everybody all the time was like, "So what are you going to do now?" And I was like, "Nothing. Like I'm going to keep doing what I do."
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people use that as a cop out for, like, if you can do it if you want to do it. You just have to. But like, yeah, I don't know. I just don't.
So it was something that was changed in your life, but didn't change who you were. It didn't.
Yeah, because I didn't let it. Is it easy? No. Am I grateful that I do have a family around me that it takes a village, man.
Yeah.
It really does, and I'll be the first to admit it because I couldn't do it by myself. I mean, there've been times I've had to do it by myself, but it's trying to
So how did that transition go? Like I think that's something a lot of parents struggle with in the beginning is like how to figure out that balance of maintaining that individuality. That's a huge theme on this show. Like obviously we talk to lots of people who are musicians and artists and whatever, and so typically those types of people want to prioritize like their art or whatever it is they're into, and what makes them unique, but not saying that's easy, right, to do necessarily, and so sometimes that's a little bit of a struggle in the beginning. But like, what was that transition like for you?
I still ride that line because I mean, any musician will tell you if they're honest with themselves that they're very like self-oriented people in a lot of ways because their focus is what their thing is. So I still ride that line. I mean, but kids will make that really apparent really quick if you want to be a good parent, if you want to be a good father. I was raised by a single parent. I didn't really have a dad. So like for me, it was never an option not to be a dad or to be someone that was, you know, present 100%. So I'm human. I have my bad days, but like my kids are the reason why I wake up in the morning still. Everything else, as much as music is like, might as well be my, you know, third arm or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, all I give a shit. Can I swear? Sorry.
Yeah, you can swear. Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I really, and why I get up every morning is them. That's it, you know, and that's the switch that goes off when it happens. So.
And how about you, Jarred? Like, so you said Violet's 3.5.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, I think I understand you and Brendan have been friends for a long time. You've obviously played together for a long time. Has Brendan sort of been like a bit of a mentor for you in terms of like navigating being a new dad? I know it's been.
Absolutely. I remember telling my wife, well, if he can do it.
Seriously. That guy can do it. Fuck.
No, of course, man. Brendan's been a role model to me since before we even met each other. I remember going to see his band Absent Minded in high school and just thinking to myself, this guy's so cool. I got to figure out how to become friends with him.
I'm not worthy.
Yeah.
We are like 20 years later.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was there through all of it when he had Cecilia and Riot.
And
it's really admirable that you were able to do that at such a young age.
And that kind of sets I mean, like, I know what it's like too. Like, you know, a lot of my friends were kind of having kids around the same time as me, but I had a few who they were a little bit older, and having that kind of example around you to kind of reassure you that like, okay, I'm going to be all right. Like, I'm going to be able to figure this out. Other people are able to do it. And that's kind of like, you know, I think one of the coolest things about parenthood, right, is it's this like shared experience that we all kind of go through as parents. And there's differences in the way you navigate it and whatever, but it's like everybody does it. Like, it can be scary at times, it can be hard at times, but you know that, you know, if you kind of remain confident that you can get through those times, it helps, right?
Well, for me, one of the craziest parts about becoming a parent was how natural it was. I was really scared, even though we talked about it and Violet was very planned. It was really scary. And then you kind of just figure it out. You kind of know what to do. Like, we all know what to do. It's all like inside of us. And it takes having a kid to understand that.
Yeah, it's pretty simple in terms of like their basic needs, right?
Yeah.
Like, so you can figure that stuff out. I mean, so Jarred, what were you scared about? Like, what were the things, I guess, that you were worried about?
I think the biggest thing was probably continuing being able to do what we do musically, even though we had that conversation before we decided to have a kid. I'm not going to stop doing this. I love doing this. I'm going to do it till the day I die. Are we sure we want to do this? And we both agreed, and it was difficult and still is difficult. But I think that's what I was most afraid of, selfishly, right? Musicians, you're just talking.
But I don't think it's selfish. And you know, I've kind of said this before on the show. Like, I think it's something that I've realized too is, well, it's important that you had that conversation ahead of time. Like, that's another important piece too, that you're able to kind of, I guess, set those I'm not going to say ground rules. That sounds a bit like you were kind of driving the ship there, but you were able to have that conversation and figure out what the parameters of all this looked like ahead of time, so that you don't set yourselves up for disappointment and resentment, and kind of comes back to that communication piece, I guess.
Absolutely. My fiance, Corinne, and I are very big on communicating and just being totally transparent. Yeah, it's important, I think.
Very.
Yeah. And so I guess, yeah. And what I was going to say too is, like, I think probably because you made that decision, this is my opinion, but because you made that decision to prioritize you know, kind of what's important to you and make sure that fits in the whole dynamic and everybody knows what the expectations are, that's probably a better outcome for your family anyway. Like, it's funny for me, like, you guys probably go through this too sometimes. Sometimes I'm like pissed off, I'm stamping around the house and I'm, you know, bothered about something, or I'm, you know, upset or whatever. And my wife will be like, do you need to just like take some time and go play guitar for a little while? Like, she realizes like that's an important piece of my life. And like, I'm sure it's the same with you guys. Like, when you don't have time to kind of connect to that side of you for a while, you kind of start losing it. And so if you were to just like, okay, I'm a dad now, like I can't do that anymore, like it would probably eat away at you, and then that affects your family too.
I think that's pretty common. I think
Yeah.
that happens to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think it builds a level of resentment that's like not repairable. I mean, so in some cases too, like it's very important not to lose
Who you are.
and I mean, in becoming a father, or I mean, in any relationship, I'd say though too.
I don't think it's like even a musician thing. Like, we've talked about this as like it's, you know, a musician or artist thing. I think it's like more obvious in those cases, but even like, I don't know, like my wife, for example, I'm a bit more of an introvert than she is. She loves going out with her friends and stuff. So I know that's important to her. So when, you know, that stuff comes up, I'm never like, oh man, like I have to be at home with the kids by myself. Like, no, it's like, you go do that, because that's what kind of, you know, fills your bucket or whatever. And then, you know, then just the vibe around the house is so much better afterwards, because you know, you need to just support those parts of you. Like, you know, it's kind of like, I guess it's a cliche, but I think, you know, how people talk about, oh, my dad used to go like, you know, into the garage for hours and tinker on the car, and that's kind of talked about like it's kind of a shitty thing to do, like, but I guess I'm just thinking about this now, like maybe like that's just the same thing that we're talking about here. Like, I need to prioritize what's important to me. Obviously it can't come at the expense of everything else. Like, you need to figure that out, and it comes back to communication. But yeah, like I guess it's important for everybody.
It is very much.
Yeah. I converted a spare bedroom into a music studio.
Yeah.
Right? My wife and I's bedroom is right there, so she tolerates that.
Yeah. That's amazing. I'm always envious. I see your videos and stuff on your YouTube channel and on your social media. You have a pretty sweet studio.
Thanks. It was a lot of work.
When did you go through that?
Pandemic.
Perfect time.
This used to just be like brown soundboard. It was so ugly in here, and over the pandemic, the government money, I bought some like recording equipment, some of the soundproofing stuff, the lights.
Yep. Yeah, the lights are cool.
It's the lights. That's what really is. The lights that just tie it together.
It really ties the room together.
Yeah. Look at this. We can make this an interior decorating conversation here. Well, and this is the Rad Dad Show, so I'm going to ask you guys sort of separately, but do you consider yourself a rad dad?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. What about you, Brent?
Your kids aren't old enough yet.
Not old enough to tell you you're not rad?
Exactly. I don't think I'm that rad. No, I mean, it was my daughter's friends and stuff think I'm cooler than my daughter does, you know, and that because they're like the discovering music age and stuff like that. So I think it's kind of embarrassing for them. I know my oldest son thinks it's cool, and he likes going to shows, and that's one of my favorite like dad experiences, is like having him be into music, and like, you know, having him come to like when we do bigger, cooler shows, and he can, you know, stand on stage with us or whatever. Because like when I was his age, I would have fucking killed for that.
Yeah.
Like, that would have been like my be all end all, and that he's into it's really cool for me. My youngest, he just came to his first show in like April, and I think his head exploded because he wasn't sure who the other guy was, but so he could take it or leave it.
Like he wasn't sure who like you were on stage.
Yeah, he's like that. Yeah,
your other persona, I guess.
You're right. The guy that's not telling him to
clean up his room or whatever.
Exactly. So I think that was like, I don't think he processed it fully. He's also slightly developmentally delayed, so it's a. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'm that rad. I think they think I'm a nerd.
Well, sometimes those things go hand in hand, I think.
Right. I am a big nerd. I mean, I think of myself as one.
Well,
So.
it's funny when I ask this question, like people are always like, and you're kind of doing it right now, Brendan, like, like humble about it or whatever. Or they'll be like, well, you ask my family, or I don't know, you tell me. Jarred, I like your answer, the confident, yeah, I'm a rad dad. Well, Jarred, what do you think? Is Brendan a rad dad?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have nothing else to say about it. Of course he is. The raddest.
Oh man.
And Brendan, what's your verdict on Jarred?
I think Jarred's just a rad person in general, and I will say I've never seen someone. I mean, because I saw before and I saw after, like fatherhood just like took to Jarred really well, and like also through that he's incredible with other people's kids too. Like I don't
Yeah.
have that. I'm like the awkward guy that's like, hi, like they're not my kids, so like no one. But like I feel like the magnifying glass is on when I'm on in that situation. Jarred's a natural at that, and then he's also embraced like other stereotypical dad qualities through the process too. That, like I haven't even reached yet. So
it really showed through on this last tour. I think you guys started just calling me dad.
I did.
So is that like you're like keeping everybody organized? You're like, we gotta catch the plane at
Exactly,
8, so let's leave 5 hours early.
I booked
Well, that's it's yeah. No, but just your general behavior, like in restaurants or what have you, is very. Jarred's just like, yeah, Jarred's a natural at it.
Born to be a dad.
It's impressive. I feel like I need to step my game up with like being a person has children. Yeah, no, Jarred's rad as hell. Jarred's rad in general.
Thanks, B.
Yeah, dude.
Awesome. Well, I love that. So one of the things that we kind of really try and explore on the show is like, to kind of like get maybe a little bit serious about it for a second is like, well, what's a rad dad? Like, obviously there's kind of this connotation of like doing things that are maybe radical, being a musician or whatever, an artist, but like, we, as parents, we look at other parents, just like you guys were talking about each other, but we look at other parents and we kind of go like, oh yeah, that guy seems like a really good dad, or geez, what, like that guy seems like a real shithead. Like what are the qualities of a rad dad? Like, I guess, what are those things you strive to? And I think Brendan, you said it before, like we're not perfect all the time. We don't have to be perfect, I don't think, but what are those qualities you strive for to be able to consider yourself or someone else a rad dad?
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Well, I'm going to say what you're going to say. It's just being present.
Showing up is like 90% of the job. That may sound crappy, but like just being there. And and it doesn't even mean, yeah, I don't mean like physically either, because with what we do, like a lot of it is FaceTime or it is a phone call. And as your kids get older, that stuff is. And I will say, doing this as they get older, it gets harder. It was easier for me when they were younger, but as life hits and things go on and people develop into being adults, like it's that much more important that you are, like, even when we're on the road, I am on FaceTime or at least a phone call every day, if not texting, all day. Yeah, for me, it is showing up. I didn't have a dad. Jarred has a great fucking dad. Jarred's dad is like the dad of the band too, like 100 times over. So
I couldn't be more fortunate.
Yeah, Jarred has a great father. But yeah, I just knowing that you're there, knowing that them knowing that you support them, just like that they can talk to you, that you have that. And again, this is like more of as they get older type of thing. But yeah, I say all that knowing that we were playing a festival when my youngest came into the world at the insistence of my family to go do the show anyways. So
yeah. So your youngest was born and you were
I took my wife to the hospital and I was there till 11 a.m. and she still hadn't come out yet. And we were playing Life is Beautiful that year. And I watched my son being born from FaceTime on the back of a golf cart leaving catering or wherever to the stage or whatever. And my wife doesn't hate me, and neither do my in-laws, they all told me to go. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's being there, man. I really,
Yeah.
and trying your best not to, make sure that you're not what they're talking about in therapy when
Yeah.
they, but you're human, man. I think we all are, and we're all going to have bad days and say things and it's being able to own up to those things too, like being able to apologize. Like, I don't know if you had parents that were able to apologize or not, but I think that's a big thing, and maybe it's more of this generation being able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's so much I sort of want to comment on from what you said. Like, you're right that like being present, it's a really simple concept, but it's actually really hard to pull off, I find sometimes.
So
like
hard.
especially in this world of like, well, okay, you guys, there's like this physical aspect where you guys might be away for the art that you do, right? So there's that physical aspect, but there's also just so many fucking distractions all the time, right? And like, I don't know, you guys are probably managing your social media and like you kind of have to stay connected a little bit too. Like, I find that's something I really struggle with, is like, oh, let me just look at this for a second. Like, it's like someone commented on my Instagram post, like that even matters, right? But you kind of like get distracted with all the things that are going on in life. And so I think, it sounds like really simple and maybe seems like kind of cliche to say or whatever, to be present, but it's actually like probably the hardest thing to do.
It is just like, think about like when you have a bad day and that's what's bothering you when you walk through the door, or
Yeah.
and it's just like, I think of the things I've missed while I was perseverating on something that's fucking completely irrelevant right now.
Yeah.
And I'll kick myself for it the rest of my, I mean, that's my biggest struggle with everything that's going on in my, personal life or job, or that's not. And that's something I've been working on my whole life, is to just be present in the moment, because
Yeah, like have that perspective, right?
because you don't get that time back.
Yeah.
And the pandemic hit that home really hard, like coming out of that and realizing that like life had moved forward that far. Well, it's really easy to have your head up your ass. I mean, it is for me.
Totally.
I speak for myself. I'm not trying to accuse anybody of anything, but I think, yeah, it's just, that's my biggest piece, is because, man, you don't get it back, and those little things and those little moments, like that's what's fucking important, and that's what life is about. Because at the end of the day, everything else is pretty fucking irrelevant when you're on your deathbed.
Yeah. And you mentioned like not wanting to be like the subject of your kids' therapy or whatever, like later in their life. And it's funny. So Brendan, you have a bit older kids, and Jared, like my youngest is about the same age as Violet, but I have one in the middle who's 7, just about 8, and I'm sort of starting to see that shift to like, I don't know. This is like something that's bothering me a lot lately. And I'm trying not to like get too worked up about it, but like I drop her off at daycare, and like you kind of walk down this hall, and there are rooms at the end of the hall. And she's like, Dad, can you like hug me outside in the hall? Like, not like when you get to the room, like, it's like, that's not a major thing, but I'm starting to see that like shift of, oh, my parents kind of embarrass me a little bit, or like it, I don't think I embarrass her, but I think she's just like trying to figure out how to navigate like kind of being cool and those kinds of things already. So those things are tough.
Yeah, I'm not there yet.
It's a hard one to swallow when that starts happening.
I mean,
Especially,
I can imagine, but I can't really imagine my little Violet saying, "Dad, just hang back."
I know, and the thing is, like my kids, like we have a very connected relationship. Like we're always hugging and all that stuff. Like, I think I'm like trying to just tell myself this is not something I did, but like you can't help but like have that go through the back of your mind. I'm sure with teenagers, Brendan, like you must be experiencing some of that too, right?
like, I overthink everything as it is. So like you throw like actually like being a dad or responsible for someone's life in the mix, it really amps up really quick.
Do you enjoy embarrassing Cecilia?
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
So that's something I'm looking forward to with Violet.
I was trying to keep the thought I was on with that, like, because I remember when it started happening for me, and it's hard. And I'm like, I was definitely a really bad hover parent. I'll be the first to admit it. And the gloves kind of came off in the pandemic when I realized that they were, becoming teenagers, and like I had to, let go of the grip just a little bit, and that was a lot. for me to do, because I'd say they were kind of overprotected and sheltered, because that's just me. But yeah, when that starts happening, it's hard not to think, but it happens to everybody. And
Yeah.
it's like, you got to think about like when you didn't want to be around you, your parent either. But no, I thoroughly enjoy embarrassing my oldest, like at in any opportunity. But she's generally okay with it. Like I think she accepts me, and she's gotten older. She doesn't mind me being around, I think. And
Uh-oh.
Oh, we might have lost Brendan here.
I told him to come over.
You've got the strong internet connection there.
I guess so.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Do you consider yourself a rad dad, even though you are the host of Rad Dad?
Yeah, your turn. Well, it's that actually makes it a little bit more complicated, I feel, for me. Like, it's funny you say that. Yeah, because you know, and I kind of try to be pretty clear about this, that like, oh, Brendan's back.
Sorry.
No,
Sorry.
That's okay. Jared took over the podcast. Now he's asked me if I consider myself a rad dad. And it's like some, you know, I guess like sometimes when I do have those moments that you kind of regret, right? Like you lose your temper, or like you just handle something in a way you wish you handled it differently.
Yeah.
That's always in the back of my mind. Like, oh shit, like, you know, that's not a rad dad move right there. And I think in general, I do consider myself a rad dad for some of the reasons we're talking about here. Like, you know, I'm pretty involved in my kids' lives, and I actually don't think you have to be like, you don't have to be like the world's best dad to just meet that part of it. Like you said, like 90% of it is just being present. And I think if you can do that, if you can, like, I guess for me, as my oldest daughter is getting older, a thing that I'm really thinking about a lot, and to connect it back to what you said, Brendan, about like being able to come to you when they have problems, that's the thing I'm really thinking about now. Is like, okay, she's getting older, like pretty soon there's, you know, like pretty soon, but I mean like in 5 years, like there's going to be like boyfriends, and there's going to be like difficult situations. And like the only thing that I really care about, like going forward, is that they can trust me, right? Like that's like the biggest thing. Is I just want them to feel like when something goes wrong, whatever it is, it can be like the worst thing. They could have done something terrible. I want them to be able to come to me and be like, this happened, help me work through this. And so that's a thing that I'm really like trying to be conscious about right now, is like, okay, when they do something stupid, like when they're little, like you kind of have to like treat them almost like this is going to sound really bad, but treat them like little like animals almost. Like, okay, like you need to learn like that's bad, and so you don't do that, because they don't understand the why. They just have to understand that it's bad. But when they get older, like if you respond that same way, you're going to lose that trust. They're going to just feel like you're like, I have an authoritarian dad, and like I can never do anything right. And so that's like a thing I'm really thinking about a lot now, and like reflecting on. And the times I feel really crappy about myself is when I've like lost my temper, or like you know, they've had a problem and I've kind of like made it their fault, you know. So I guess, you know, to answer your question more directly, like I do consider myself a rad dad, and I guess I just think like, as long as you're thinking about those things and trying your best at it, you're probably doing okay. You're probably doing more than average.
That's pretty rad that you're thinking about that.
That's rad.
I completely agree.
No, that reaction thing is very real, man. And you're thinking about it now. Like I'll tell you, this last year, I've had incidents with both my oldest daughter and my oldest son where I had to rethink my natural reaction to the situation. Like the one I'll bring up is my daughter had a boy classmate like touch her like back or something inappropriately, and she kind of froze and didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, my first inclination is like, the protector is like, where does this boy live? I'm gonna find his father, and you know, because that's me. But if you react that way, or get angry, or like you're no longer a safe place to come to, you're no longer, they're gonna second guess telling you what's going on in their lives. Like and the fact that you're aware of that now is like you're light years ahead of the curve, because that stuff will come. You have to consider not having your first knee-jerk reaction to it, because you can erase like that one precious thing, that you are still the person that they can tell you know, they're not going to tell you everything. They never will, because they're your
Right.
kids. But that's so important, man, to just being aware of it now, you know, because it'll
I'm
happen.
not sure I like know how I'm gonna react to those situations, right? Like I guess I'm kind
You
of
won't till
thinking
you're
about it.
there.
Yeah.
You won't till you're there.
But I think probably like the key thing that you said there is just not like responding instinctively, because I think we come with like 35 40 years of baggage here at this point of like handling things the way we always handled them, and that doesn't always work for your kids. Even like the way you handle things at work, you might have to handle that differently at home. And so that's the toughest part, is like, and I'm kind of like you, Brendan, like I'm kind of hearing that you're, you know, kind of type A and just like, you know, keeping things organized or whatever. I'm totally the same way. And so the hardest thing for me is when it like something kind of disturbs my routine or what I thought my plan was for that day or how this was going. And that those things will kind of drive me nuts. And my instinct will be to like kind of freak out about that. And I have to just like, I have to tell myself to just relax. Like it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. I plateau and then drop so it's a struggle, man. It is.
Yeah. We're
it's
human
work.
too.
Exactly.
Like, and you talked about like apologizing, like your kids seeing too that like you mess up and stuff, I think is okay too. Like as long as they're not the brunt of experiencing the brunt of it all the time. But
it's important for them to see that you're human also.
Yeah.
Yeah, we try, like in my house, like my wife and I really try to make it an open forum in regards to everything, you know, at all times. Like having stuff that's like can't be talked about, or like we make it open forum, and we also make it open forum the fact that like we are human, you know, for our older ones that can understand it, and that we're not perfect, you know. And I think that's a good thing too. I think kids knowing that, but yeah, I kind of trailed off on a tangent there. Sorry. I don't know.
It's like, it's all about kind of modeling that for them, right? Like,
yeah,
they need to see that like life's not easy, and it's not easy for my parents either. And sometimes they screw up and they go through struggles too. And actually it's kind of nice too when you can like turn to your family for support too, and they see that sometimes like they need me for support, right?
Yeah.
Jarred, I'm interested to hear a bit more about your dad, to change the subject a little bit, but you know, you responded pretty emphatically about having a rad dad yourself, and Brendan.
I love Jared's dad.
Yeah.
I wish he was.
So tell me about your dad, and I guess maybe your experience like growing up, your relationship with your dad, and I'm kind of interested to go with it too is, and I don't know if you've reflected on this, but like how it's impacted the way you parent.
Well, okay. He's definitely a big role model for me. He's very successful. When he was 30, early 30s, 1986, I think was the year, he was just a stagehand like I am in Las Vegas. And he and his two buddies got together and they decided to start their own AV company. And they maxed out all their credit cards and bought some AV equipment. And now his company is in every single hotel on the strip. It's massive. Wow. It's called Encore. I mean, it's called Encore Global now.
Yeah, you're worldwide.
Yeah. So watching him do that as I grew up was very inspiring. There were tough times growing up. Like he traveled a lot, so he wasn't necessarily always there, but we travel a lot, Brendan and I. I wish there was FaceTime back then, because there wasn't.
It was a different time too. Like, I guess, you know, kind of reflecting back, like, I guess one thing I always think about too is like, there's lots of different jobs and life situations and whatever. And like, some people have to travel for their job, right? Some people have jobs where even now, like they can't use FaceTime for whatever reason. Like maybe their job involves like overseas, whatever. It's different time zones and stuff. So I guess, you know, how do you still maintain that relationship? Like what did that look like as you got older? Did your perspective change about your relationship with your dad? Did that sort of grow and change as time went on?
Not really.
I thought you guys got closer. Like that's my outside perspective. Closer, yeah. You guys definitely.
Yeah, you know, teenage years, you kind of fade apart. Even though he was still always there for me and always so supportive. Growing up, no matter what I did, baseball, rock climbing, music, he was always 100% in. What can I do to help you do what you need to do? And even still, he still supports us 100%.
Has your relationship evolved since you've become a dad yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really started getting better beginning of my 30s for whatever reason. I don't even know. I think maybe I just started growing up around then. But we just became close again, and golf has been a big
nice
catalyst for that. We golf like every weekend.
Awesome. So you kind of have that specific thing that you guys kind of enjoy together. Did you golf together as kids? Like, well, not when he was a kid.
Yeah,
when you were a kid.
He kind of forced me to. I wasn't really into it, and it was piano and golf. Those two things. They were like, "You're gonna regret it. Stick with it. You're gonna regret it." I'm like, I don't care. I just want to go ride my bike. I just want to go play video games.
Yeah. And
yeah, sure enough, I do. But
Jared's a great piano player. Side note.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. So, well, this is kind of an interesting topic too. I don't kind of want to beat this to death, but like forcing your kids to do stuff. Like, I'm kind of interested in your perspectives on those things. Like, Jarred, you and I are probably at a similar stage where, like, I don't know, my kids are kind of like, yeah, I'll do whatever you say, Dad. Like, yeah, put me in soccer, do whatever. But I'm noticing with my oldest, as she, as time goes on, it's like, oh, I don't want to do that, or I'd rather just have time off, or that's too hard. I kind of want to give that up. Like, what's that balance look like? Brendan, maybe you have some insight on that in terms of the balance between letting your kids kind of explore, their passions and what they're interested in, and maybe trying to impart our wisdom as parents and knowing some of the things that they probably should pursue.
The last 2 years I've dealt with that a lot. Like for me growing up, like, so I've always had like my brothers and I too, I mean, pretty much have always had like whatever our thing is, or the thing that we do. Or for me, obviously I did music and martial arts. It was like, that was my thing. And that's like, it was always just kind of all in. That was the mentality and I live in Las Vegas because my younger brother was an elite gymnast, and we moved here.
Okay.
So he could train. So that was the way that like my household was. Like, everyone had a. So my daughter was competitive gymnast for a while until it started to like break her down. And that's like, to answer your question, I do. There has to be a line where you see that they put in the work and they've actually been able to form an opinion to the point where like it maybe is detrimental to them. But like you just got to give it time. And sometimes you do slightly have to be the bad guy, because maybe it is for the greater good, and maybe it is something they'll look back and regret. My daughter ended up, because she was in such a bad place with the gymnastics, that she just started doing dance, and she's been doing dance the majority of her life. My oldest son, Riot, that's the hard one for me. The last 2 years is he was a break dancer. He had been since he was 4, and did World of Dance with J-Lo, got to do, I guess, the World Championships in France.
Wow.
And
yeah,
like he did, like, was music videos, stuff like that, like professional. And this year he didn't want to do it anymore. And that was like, it was a hard thing for me, for him not to have his thing, but it's not like he didn't do it for more than half of his life,
Yeah.
So it's like, I gotta respect his choice. And you leave it with like his crew and his studio and everything. I mean, left as the door's always open kind of thing. But it's like, he's 14, he wants to, I'm gonna support him in his choice. And it's not like he didn't do it for long enough. Like, I think he could form a coherent opinion on where, if he was over it or not. He plays guitar now. He's one of those kids that's like, I mean, much like Jarred, like, he's kind of good at whatever he wants to do with, I mean, some cases more effort, but like minimal effort. Like, he picks things up very good, very well, very easy. And like, that's the hardest thing for me, is because he's not like gung-ho driven about anything. And it's like, for me, I always had like, I still do. I still have the same, you know, get out of my way attitude with whatever it is that my heart's into. And so that's, as a parent, that is kind of hard to see with not like riding your kid to some point of, because like with the guitar thing, I wanted him to audition for the art high school that my daughter goes to and that I went to, because I think it would just be a better overall experience for him if he didn't want to do it. And I couldn't force him. Part of me wanted to just force him, but I didn't. And he's going to the high school that his friends are going to, and he's happy. And there's a fine line. There is. I don't have the perfect answer, but like in some of that, I've gained like made my peace with it. Like if there's enough time put in, if there's, you know, I wanted to quit guitar after like the first week, and my mom's like, "Do you have any idea how many 16-year-old kids have a guitar in their closet that gave up and don't care?" And it was like, for some reason that kind of stuck with me. And so yeah, I don't know if that was a good choice or a bad choice still at this point in time. But
when I was younger, I was forced into doing. I think it was team sports. So you can do whatever you want, but you have to be involved in a team sport. I tried soccer. I tried baseball. Gosh, what else? The golf team. I hated all of it. And then I found rock climbing. And my dad's like, "That's not a team sport. That's just you climbing." And I'm like, "Nope, there's a climbing team at this gym down the road." And it was really just a bunch of kids. It wasn't a climbing team. It was like climbing club.
Yeah.
But it worked.
There's support there too, right? It kind of functions a bit like a team.
Looking back, if I wasn't forced into doing something like that, I don't know that I would have done anything. I probably would have just wanted to play video games and leave it at that.
And that's my worry with Riot right now, is because he's in that phase of like, he likes playing guitar, he likes playing video games, and it's like, I want him to have a thing, but it's just like, maybe that's not him, you know, maybe.
Still play video games.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
It's a hard one.
It's so hard. But like I guess your comment about golf, Jarred, and how like that's something you and your dad are kind of bonding over now. It's like, I guess if he hadn't kind of forced you to do that, you wouldn't have this experience now. And so
I don't know that we would, because golf is tough. I don't know if you play it, but
yeah, I do. Yeah.
Because I was forced to do it when I was a kid, I kind of had a good base.
Yeah.
So I'm able to go out and like play around with him and not get frustrated. And I don't want to do this anymore. It's fun.
That's me golfing. It's like, if it's not a baseball bat and I'm hitting it with blunt, like all the force in my body, I have no patience for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Golf is not just something that's easy to kind of like pick up.
No.
And people do get frustrated. It's funny. I took golf lessons when I was a kid too. And I don't think I was particularly interested in doing that, but I'm really glad I did. Cause it's kind of like here, it's a real cultural thing. Like, I would say it's quite common because we have this, like, for you guys, it's warm there all the time. For us, it's fucking freezing here for 6 months of the year. And then for, 6 months, and that's your time to get out. So it's like golfing gets really big, and all those kinds of things, swimming and whatever. And so I'm thankful that I had that stuff too. And so I'm like reflecting on that with my kids. I've got like a couple things that I think it's like swimming lessons. Okay, you need to do that because like I can't handle you falling in a body of water, not knowing how to get to the edge or whatever. So that's like a life skill, but so yeah, I guess so. Swimming is a big one. And then, one of the other things we're trying to do is like skiing, because we live in a winter climate. So it's like, if you can't enjoy the winter, man, like it can get pretty depressing up here. So we're kind of trying to do those kinds of things. But again, like you're always encountering that, like, how much do I push my kid here? But it does give you some perspective when you're able to look back, like, and have that reflection that, like, geez, if my parents hadn't made me do that, like, well, how would I feel about it now? So you are walking that line where you don't want to like break their trust and damage the relationship, but you do want to kind of do what you think is right for them.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's not so much of a push as it is a guide.
Yes.
That's
swimming lessons. I'm pushing, like swimming. I'm like, okay, you gotta like get to the point where you can just swim without like water wings.
Are you doing class swim lessons or private?
We did like, there's like community swimming here that like, is pretty cheap or whatever. And you might have like 10 kids in a class. And we did that for a little while, but our daughter she's like quite a good swimmer, but she wasn't getting a lot of one-on-one help with it. So we went to a different, like, it's kind of like a swim school. It's a bit more expensive, but it's been amazing. Like she's moved through it so fast. And both the kids are in that. That's where they are right now, actually. And it's like according to milestones. So instead of like being in one class for a whole, session, whatever it is, 10 weeks, now it's like, as long as you hit these milestones, you move up to level 6, then you move up to level 7 or whatever. So
that's my youngest is doing the same thing right now.
Yeah.
I like the milestone program.
He's in swim lessons right now?
Yeah. I mean, all three of mine have had that.
I need to get Violet in swim lessons. We swim all the time. We have a pool in our backyard and it's deep.
Yeah.
She got to know what's up.
I mean, you have a pool though.
Yeah. And I had somebody just a few days ago tell me a horror story. They were in like a group swim class and they went under and nobody really noticed. And the kid was under for like 20 or 30 seconds before somebody finally was
oh my God.
Because they were watching, they had like 5 kids they were responsible for.
Well, I swear I'm the only parent that because I sit out in the pool area. Like his class is small. It's usually 2, like him and another, or him and 2 more. And one of the kids was wild and they were goofing around while the instructor had the other kid out in the lane. And I'm a Huffer parent. And this kid jumped on B and I had to run over and pull, and like it was a whole to do because that shit happens when you're.
I've been looking into it, and you can have somebody come to your house and do like
that,
and it's pretty much the same price.
Had that, it works.
I think I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, I think like
your pool, and it's like she knows it. She's comfy.
Yeah, we did that with the oldest too.
We went through that with our youngest, where so like if we could have done it at home, it would have gone so much better. But when she had kind of first started, she kind of got used to the idea. She wasn't like afraid of the water. She was good, but she got used to her instructor. But what happens is when you move up, then it might be like a different instructor, like just a different area in the pool. Your other instructor will be there too, but you're with this different instructor. And then that, like, she lost it. Like, oh, I miss my old instructor. I don't want to go. And she would cry. And then you're like having to take her walking out to the pool, like crying and basically forcing her into the water. She was maybe 3 or maybe just 4. So kind of that same age where if you could do it in a comfortable environment and build that confidence, I think that would be really good for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's not too many people have pools in their backyards here because like I said, 6 months of the year it's drained, or more than 6 months of the year probably, but it is getting warmer here too, and we are seeing more people with pools in their backyards. It kind of felt like this summer it would have been nice for us to have one, but
yeah.
Anyway, it is how it is. Hey, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about your bands. So because this is a pretty exciting year for you guys. 2 killer records that came out this year. The new Mercy Music record just came out. So tell me a little bit about that, the process, and I guess because it's been out for what, a month and a half or a month?
Yeah, like what day did it come out? June 30th? Is that the?
Oh yeah, June 30th.
Yeah, so about a month.
Yeah.
So how's it been? Like, because you guys did a bit of a tour, and both your bands, you kind of toured together. So yeah, tell me about
that. It's fun. You can't make everything perfect all the time. The touring thing we're working on. It was a weird year to release a record because Jared's going to go on paternity leave from what, September to December.
Yeah,
so I'm probably going to be out a lot by myself from through the fall. But doing the shorter runs and like regionally it's cheaper to do. It's more cost effective. Like as much as that, like because dudes and bands love talking shit about like bands that like have a 3-day run and they're like going on tour. Like it's like like honestly in 2023, like half the time that's the best way to do it. It really is. I wish the Unwritten Law tour had been a little bit later, but like it happened, and we're grateful. But that's the plan with the Mercy record is I'll be supporting it through the fall, just doing solo dates and maybe one-offs when Jared can get, if we can do some small things here and there. And then the plan is to do Europe in 2024 and hopefully Japan. But
And
I mean, the
Edmonton?
process, yes, we want to like be gone, you know, and I'm lucky now that I have a job that I can work remotely. Actually, my company is based in Montreal.
Oh, okay.
I work for Solo Tech, so they do like staging and lighting for all the really famous people that
Oh, cool.
make money doing this. So I order their parts from the back of a van. Um,
It's incredible that you're able to work and tour.
I'm
I watch
incre-
and I'm like, I cannot do that because we're up until
yeah.
3 a.m. and then you have
Oh
to
yeah,
log in at 5 a.m.
I
It
do.
happens every single day.
Because my schedule goes against Montreal's, so they're three
Right. So
hours
they're,
three
yeah, a
hours
few
ahead.
hours ahead of you.
So Brendan just does not sleep on tour.
But you know what? I get to tour and my kids get to eat, and
Yeah.
so. But no, did we talk about the process? Is that
Yeah,
where?
like I guess like how the record came together maybe a little bit, and like because you worked with the Blasting Room this time, right? So
Yeah.
and I've heard you talk about a little bit before how you'd kind of wanted to do that with the past records and hadn't really worked out to work with
Yeah.
Bill. I promise I didn't choose this shirt today. I'm wearing the Blasting Room shirt. I didn't choose it for that reason, but it's just like one of the most comfortable shirts.
No, I met Bill in high school, and we did a record that was, I think, a terrible experience for everybody. Like, it wasn't terrible being at the Blasting Room, obviously, but like I had guys with me that weren't prepared, and I had a
Yeah.
like I'm 18, like I know the world is, I'm right about everything, and these are my songs, and like, I mean, Bill and I were fine, but like I don't think he had the best time. But we stayed friends, and for the last two or three, I tried to get him on board to do. I mean, he was on board to do it, but it's like scheduling didn't work. I mean, especially for Nothing in the Dark, like that almost happened, but then Rise took the studio for the year, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
And I can't come with that kind
And
of
they were
financial.
working on Hypercaphium then too.
Yeah, or they were finishing the Walnut thing. So beginning of whatever year it was, I don't know anymore. I wrote Bill, I'm like, just like, give me 10 days, you know, you have the whole year, don't care when it is, we're at your disposal.
Yeah.
Because Jarred and the advent of him building a studio, we got to do something we've never done before, which was actually like make real demos of the songs, and got to fuck with them, maybe fuck with them too much at some point because I'm insane. That was really amazing. I mean, and to the point where like the demos that Jarred did, things that we forgot to do when we were at the Blasting Room, like little guitar diddlies or whatever, like we flew them from the demos that we did in Jared's room.
Oh, crazy.
To the record.
Pretty cool.
And I won't tell you which one because you wouldn't know anyways.
Right.
So yeah, that was the big thing with this one. And also just for me, it was like personally redemption to like when you want to show have your dad be proud of you, because like Bill's always been that, like whether he chose to be or not, like he's gonna be like that father figure type guy to me, like as a writer, as everything, you know.
Yeah, you have that respect for him, and
yeah,
like, you know, I've heard a lot of people. I've met Bill too, but I've never like worked with him. But I've heard that can be a bit of an intimidating process too. And so maybe part of what you're saying is like you had that initial experience with him, and you kind of felt like, oh, I wasn't as prepared as I would have liked to have been. I want him to be more impressed with, my level of work ethic to kind of.
And like going in there, like knowing that, like I'm grateful as hell to have Jarred, like amazing musician, Rye, who that's a mystery to me right now, but we can touch on later. I don't know. But just like machines of musicians, like all in the same. So to go in there and just, I mean, Rye did his drums in 8 hours, and like with Bill, and from what I've heard, maybe Bill doesn't track drummers so much anymore. So like, yeah, that's like I wear that like a badge of fucking pride, like honor. Like that's like to think that your heroes think you're good enough it's an amazing feeling.
To impress somebody like him.
Yeah,
it's pretty
or
cool.
To just and like he came out. We did that Unwritten Law tour, and he drove out to Denver, which also fucking blew our minds. That like he brought some friends, like, because I'm like, hey, we're in town. He's like, yeah, we're coming. Like he already knew, like that feeling is just like, who the fuck am I?
Yeah, that he's sort of following your band. That
Yeah,
you
we
Yeah,
submitted a guest list, and the first name is Mercy Music Bill Stevenson.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like standing at the front of the stage, like telling Jared, not a big deal, don't fuck up.
Yeah, I looked down and he's got his hands on the stage looking up at me, and he's going, no pressure, no pressure.
No, it's fucking surreal, man. And like he was at the merch booth, and he was just like, yeah, like telling stories about me in high school. And like I knew Brendan when he was, I'm just like, God, dude, like what is life right now? Like, because I don't think he knows like what a big thing that is for me, but like that's
Yeah.
like a huge thing for me.
You know, Bill is like a really he's like, you know, everyone will agree Bill's like a really just sort of different guy. And
he's just Bill.
He's Bill. Like there's nobody else like him. And he does remember stuff. Like I've had a couple of those types of experiences too, where you're just like, how the fuck do you remember me? Like I'm sure he has a million people, like, you know, I mean, you know, fanboys or whatever who are just like, you know, have met him and shook his hand one time, but it's like he remembers and he pays attention. And he, I think, you know, like a lot of us, like I think he detects like, you know, people who are genuine and so yeah, he's just such a cool guy. And so to get respect from someone like that who has done so much in his life and had such a major influence on you, that's a cool feeling.
Yeah, but yeah, the whole thing was, it was an amazing, like, yeah, it was a dream experience, obviously, to go. We were, yeah, you know.
And did Blasphemy Room, did they mix and master?
Yeah, Jason did the mix and the master on it as well.
Yeah. And so they would have been in there, because when did you record that record? You've had it done for a little while, right?
We finished in May of 22.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, I was there like a number of years ago, 2019, and they had just finished that new mastering room.
Yeah, they showed
amazing.
us that when we got there. It's really, really impressive.
Yeah. So new records out. Sounds great. I love it.
Thank you so
much. I love
it
so much. I really love Suddenly you guys did a video for that too, which is awesome. So we'll put up links to all that stuff too. We're kind of talking about you know, the kind of Bill Stevenson Descendents all connection. So let's talk about Not and how that all came together. Like I'm going to tell you my first exposure to it. So I'm on that Descendents all Facebook group, right?
Yeah.
And I remember, I can't remember, Jared, it must have been you. Someone posted like your first single. I think was it Stop the World? It was the first one that you guys released.
Yeah, I think that's it.
And I remember like reading the description, and it was like, yeah, we're, you know, kind of like in the style of All in Descendants. And I'm like, oh yeah, here we go, you know, whatever. I'm pretty skeptical, but I clicked on it, and I remember like the first listen through just being like, holy shit, like you guys have done something really amazing. Like I think you know it probably, and I think you've had enough people tell you, but like if you look on that Descendants all Facebook group, there's a lot of people on there who have followed that band for a long time, those bands for a long time, are deep in that sort of circle. That community, you guys are part of it, but we're pretty protective of that band and what they do. And like you've got pretty unanimous agreement and acceptance that record kicks ass, and it is in the vein of All. I know you kind of described it as like
it's a tribute, man.
Well, yeah, and an homage, and tons of bands do this with the Ramones, right? There's kind of Ramones core. Well, you guys have like started all core, I think.
That was our whole thought. Like, can anyone take this serious? That was like, I know Davey, Jared's been gung ho, like has not had a doubt in the world about it. But like Davey and
I've modeled my bass playing completely after Carl Alvarez.
Yeah, and
the first day I heard him. So this project to me was like, I'm all.
Yeah.
I play guitar the way I play because of Stefan, man. Like the palm mute, like that's
And we knew what we were getting into when we decided to do this. We knew that we're not just doing like a Ramones thing.
Yeah.
This is big. If we're not doing it right, we're not putting it out.
Like we wanted it to be.
We even had issues with mixing. It got to a point where the mix wasn't there, and we were like, we're not putting this out. It's not good enough.
Yeah.
But we figured it all out.
But that was our fear too. Like you bring up the Ramones core thing, like are we going to get laughed at for biting at this? Like, but that was the point, you know. And you look at, you know, the Ramones core stuff. There's a whole like genre of that. So it's like, why couldn't there be a genre of this. They're equally as influential, man. Like any band in the world right now, like you can't say they didn't listen to the Descendents or
I think
didn't
it's
take
the
something
level.
from
I
it.
think it's the musicianship. You have to be able to. You have to be at
That's
the level to do it.
Yeah.
There's that too.
Well, there's a few components, I think, too. Like musicianship is one thing, and you guys are so fucking killer. I can't believe it. Like Jarred, I've watched all your bass playthroughs and stuff, and it's just like amazing. You're incredible. And same with you, Brendan. Like amazing guitar playing. Just
Thank you,
like
man.
love what you guys are doing. So there's the musicianship, but you guys have nailed the songwriting too. Like a lot of people have said, like that album kind of feels like it could be sort of like in the Mass Nerd or Problematic era of all, and it's true. Like you pulled it off. It doesn't sound like a rip-off. It sounds like it's so hard to describe. Like it's been my favorite album of the last probably 2 years, 3 years. I don't know. I love it.
Thank you.
It's just like the record all fans have been waiting for since Problematic came out, and it feels, but despite that, it feels like you guys like.
That's cool too. That's what we were worried about too. Is like, is there any like detection of like it being its own thing too?
Yeah, I think it is for sure. I'm curious, like, so you guys have talked a lot about sort of how the project came together. Like, do you guys have plans for like what's next, or like are you talking about that, or are you thinking about that with Not in particular? I know you're very focused on Mercy Music right now, I'm sure, with the new record out too, but
yeah, but I mean, the plan is to do, I mean, maybe I should talk to Davey I mean, and I think we will do another record. I think I think we all want to. We weren't even sure if we'd like do a show. So now we've done several. I mean, we did the tour thing, which was a terrible decision in hindsight, but we fucking did that.
Why was it terrible? Was it just like to play 2 sets every night, or
back to back? Yeah. Poor Paul, the drummer, because Paul ended up drumming for Mercy that run, and that was like,
it was one of the last shows, and some random guy came up to me and he's like, "Why didn't you have Not play first, and then like a couple bands, and then Mercy Music?" And I was like,
"Why didn't we?"
Yeah. That was a good idea.
Yeah. So, no, for me, like it's fun. It's fun. Like I don't like Davey and I write. I mean, Jarred write. I mean, Jarred, those bass lines, like that goes beyond just like I play bass on the thing. Like find someone else that can fucking do that, like.
Yeah.
So, but Davey had the first batch of whatever 3 or 4 songs, and then I think we kind of cove the majority of the rest. Davey wrote every word. He asked me to write lyrics, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. But yeah, I think we plan to record again. I know we have a few more shows coming up before the end of the year, and it's just like, it's a fun thing because it's like I get to play, do something I like doing. I'm not like, I don't really have to worry about much. It's just like, because I'm not the alpha in that band, I guess, or for lack of better, like I play guitar and you guys can kiss my ass because that's all I have to do right now.
Yeah, it's nice to have that different dynamic, hey?
Yeah.
Well, I just think, like, if anybody's sort of listening or watching this and they haven't checked out that album yet, like, go get it. It's like, even on its own, like, not as a like you have to be a fan of the Descendents, like it's a fucking great record. The songs are great. I'm a big like kind of power pop guy too, and it's got that whole, I mean, that's what sort of Descendents and all have done so well. Yeah, there's the record right there. So I have a first pressing copy of the Not one, but my friend Corey ordered it for me, and he's in Vancouver, so I'm waiting to get that from him. And Mercy Music there too. So the new record as well. So we'll put up links to all that stuff. People got to check it out. Like I really did want to convey though to you guys that like, and I'm sure you've heard this from other people, but like it's just a huge accomplishment. Like it's not a ripoff. It's like it's such an amazing record. I just love it so much. I don't know how else to say it, but it's such a huge accomplishment. You must feel it too.
A lot of speed bumps. A lot of times where
it's awesome. It's awesome to hear that though, man. Because like Lord knows we thought about it. Like it wasn't like it was very
Were you nervous about the response from kind of the Descendents?
So much so that like we were getting the first mixes and the not stuff where we were at the Blaster Room and Jared was kind of playing it in the break room and like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like,
Brandon was not having it. Can
and
I tell
then
Can I tell it?
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So we're listening to the mixes, and Brendan and Davey were really nervous that they were going to hear it, the Descendents, and be like, "What are you guys doing? That's our stuff." I didn't feel that way. I thought they'd be cool. So I'm just playing it willy nilly, and Brendan's all bummed out, and I'm like, "It's going to be fine." And sure enough, in walks Bill. Hey, what's this? Hey, what are you guys listening to? What is that? That's cool. Show me. And Brendan's like, "Oh shit." So I explained the whole thing to him, and he goes, "Dude, that's so rad. All the Descendant stuff I got from other people. Type this in on YouTube. This is where I got my edge.
Yeah.
All right, now type this in. This is where I got theme." And he showed me all the stuff that he pulled from to get his song ideas.
Yeah.
And he ended up loving it. They all love it. Stefan loves it.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, like, what feedback have you gotten since the record's out? Like, what have you heard from the guys in the band?
I mean, my thing that like one of my on my die happy list is when Mercy was playing with Descendants in Albuquerque, Stefan walked up and he's like, well, you know, if something happens to me, I know who can play guitar in Descendants. And I was just like, holy fucking shit.
Yeah, that's like the world's best compliment.
Yeah, I got nothing, man. I have nothing but high praise for all of them. So and the fact that they didn't like tell us to go die in a fire after hearing that.
Yeah.
Because like it is what it is. Like it sounds like a fucking all or Descendants record. Like it does. You know. That
Stefan and Natalie are all in.
Yeah, Natalie loves it.
She loves it. I just sent them a bunch of merch the other day with your stuff too. You're further away, so your stuff's going to take like 20 days or something.
Yeah, I haven't got it quite yet, but I'll send you a care package back for you guys. It's too bad. I was actually in Vegas a few weeks ago at the Punk Rock Museum. We did a thing down there for the podcast. So yeah, we could have done this in person, but next time.
How was that? I haven't been to the museum yet.
Oh, you got to check it out. Yeah, it's awesome. Like everybody sort of says it that you kind of aren't expecting it to be as awesome as it is. Like maybe just because it's like a punk rock thing put together by punk rockers, and you just wouldn't think they could like make a real museum, but it is a real museum. It's done so well. Like what I would say is if someone's coming through who's doing a guided tour that you're stoked on, you should go do the guided tour. That's the way to experience it.
I didn't go do it when KJ was there. Is that when you were there?
That's when I went. Yep.
Dude, Chicks Dig It for me.
Jared's a huge Chicks Dig It fan.
Huge. I love that band.
Yeah,
I should have went then.
Me too. Yeah, it was super fun actually, and it was all kind of like they called it the Canadian connection. So it was very focused on kind of the Canadian scene and those guys' experience. So Grant Lawrence from the Smugglers was there too, and they did it together. Right. It was really fun. I kind of hung out with KJ a little bit, and Grant and KJ's family was down too. So that was fun. KJ's been on the podcast before, and
awesome.
So we sort of, and Grant had too. So we did a bit of a punk rock museum specific feature with them on site. It was fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really fun. Yeah, make sure, next time you see someone who's coming through doing a guided tour that you're kind of into or excited about, go do it. Like there's no experience like that.
Yeah.
It's just like any other museum, I would say, like where if you there's like some written stuff that you can like read, but if you don't like know what that artifact is in that case, you might just like walk by it and never learn about it. Right. So to have somebody kind of walk you through and explain what different things are is really cool. And like, depending who you get, you're going to hear about different things.
Brendan, didn't you go? Didn't you play the Johnny guitar?
No, I didn't play it. Oh. I have a friend that works there. I was trying to parlay that into happening. It did not. No, I went on like a weekday afternoon, so it was really quiet. Yep. And there's a lot to take in, and there's things that you forget about too, like in your, like, I don't know. It's cool.
Yeah.
Everyone should go.
It's really cool. It's kind of a unique experience too. Like, you could take your family there and they'd think it's cool too. Like, they've got the jam room, like you were talking about. You can play, different guitars.
Yeah, I got to like stuff. Playing Tim Armstrong's, Upside Down.
Yeah.
The Pink Hagstrom, man, like that's like seeing that on Saturday Night Live, like my childhood, like it's fucking like, when can you get to do that? Like,
I know,
that's amazing.
Brett, what was your introduction to punk rock?
My introduction to punk rock, like we must all be around the same age. So I'm 38.
36.
I'm 37. Jared's
Oh,
going to be 37. He's not going to tell
okay.
you.
So we're around this. We're around the same age, and so probably like some similarities there. For me, I grew up in kind of a smaller town that was well, there's kind of two, I would say there's two things that sort of came together for me. So one was I had an older sister. So basically, like de facto, I listened to what she listened to. So she had some friends who were kind of into some punk rock stuff. So when like Rancid and Out Come the Wolves came out, like Green Day Dookie, that whole thing happened, like she had those CDs and those were in our house. And so there was that. I would say Rancid and Out Come the Wolves was maybe like one of, I'm not a huge Rancid fan now. Like I like Rancid. They're great.
Yeah.
That album is killer. And I love a lot of their stuff. But that was a big intro for me. Like one of the first albums where I listened to it start to finish and was like, holy shit, like there's nothing bad in here.
No, I love that record.
Yeah.
What year was that? When did that come out?
94, I think.
Yeah, 94, 95, something like that.
I think that was that same year, like Offspring Smash came out, Dookie came out. Like it was a crazy year.
The Second Coming.
Yeah. Speaking of the Second Coming, so this is the other piece. As I grew up in a bit of a small town, big Christian community there, and so a lot of my friends, like, you know, I didn't go to church and stuff, but my a lot of my friends did. And we had this like Christian bookstore there. It was called the Book Nook. Was that what it's called? Something like that. And they carried like a ton of like the Christian punk rock scene stuff. So I had some friends who were into MXPX, and that was like, I would say one of the first bands that I really like super got into was MXPX. And then, yeah, it just sort of went from there. Like I got really into them and, you know, listened to some other bands. And I knew Mike from MXPX was a big Descendents fan, big All fan. And so kind of made that connection sort of like later on. And the rest was history. Like once I found, it was really All for me, actually. Like I really like Descendents. There's no question. They're 10 out of 10 for me, but All's 11 out of 10. So
thank you.
Yeah. Once I found All, it was like, it was over. That was it. So What about you guys? What's the Cole's notes on?
I got into the game late. I think Offspring Americana was my first punk record that I got into. And then I was just like all in on the Offspring for so long. And then I discovered the Toy Dolls after that. And it was off to the races.
Yeah.
That's kind of how our band started. I would go to Absent Minded Band Practice, which was Brendan's high school band, practiced in his mom's living room while she slept upstairs because she worked the night shift as a nurse, right? I would sit there, they would practice, the band would leave, and then Brendan would get on the drum kit and I would pick up his guitar and we would just do Toy Dolls covers.
Yeah.
And that's how we started playing music together.
It's true.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, I mean, we didn't really talk about your mom, Brendan, but sounds pretty cool, pretty supportive of what
she's a rad mom.
She's a rad mom, dad. Yeah, for sure. No,
and what about your introduction to punk rock, Brendan?
Back to my mom. I mean, my mom was she sang in bands in Phoenix in the 80s, so she'd play like with like the Meat Puppets and stuff like that. My mom is my introduction to music, probably. My dad too. My dad listened to like the more classic rock side of things, but like my mom like loved Squeeze and like the Jam and like all the early and my dad had 2 kids from his first marriage. So my older sister at the time, I was really young, like I was like 5, 6, 7, but she'd make mixtapes that would play in the car, and like that had like that's when I first heard TV Party from Black Flag and stuff like that. So like I was always had that stuff, and then, you know, 3rd grade, whatever, Dookie came out, obviously, and I'd be lying to you if that didn't happen to me too. And then, you know, it was off to the races, because then I discovered like Lookout Records, and I discovered the Queers, and I, you know, that whole catalog, Mr. T Experience. And then I think I was at Circuit City and I discovered punk rock record samplers. That those are a thing, that I can get 25 songs for $4 instead of like 10 for $20. So I'm like, oh man, this is awesome. And I think my sister sent me Punkorama 4, which is like straight out of the pit. And I think that has Think the World from All on it, if I'm
that's right.
Correct. And I had no idea they were the same band. I'm like, I listened to that song and I'm like, who the fuck is this band? Like, I can't even understand what's going on right now. Like, I can't tell what the bass is doing or what the guitar is doing, but man, the song is so fucking good. So that's like, that was my all introduction. But yeah, there's like and then, you know, Fat Records and Epitaph and Kung Fu, and then like, cause I love that shit. I love like finding that stuff out, and like I'd literally send like dollar bills in the mail, you know, with the self-addressed stamped envelope back to get stickers and posters, and that was my life. And that's yeah, it's just kind of been that way. But I was lucky with my parents, definitely.
Yeah, I was a similar kind of experience in that way. Like I think a pretty common experience, like you'd get a record and then you'd like read the liner notes. Like I would just sit and read liner notes all the time, and then I'd be like, oh, they thank this band, I've never heard of them before, I'm gonna go check that out. I'll like buy the CD at HMV, I've never heard them before, I'm just gonna buy it because these guys obviously like them so
much. Sight unseen, just like, this looks cool, I'm gonna buy this.
That's how I bought Punk and Drublic that way at the grocery store I went to as a kid. Had a CD department, and I'm like, I heard these other bands talk about this NoFX band, I'm gonna buy Punk and Drublic. And it's just funny how like it is organic, you know.
I bought Problematic that way, actually. I'm trying to remember like how it went. I think how did this work? I bought Problematic. I think that was maybe the first all album I actually owned. Would have been in grade 10 or something. And I remember popping it in and being like, oh, I don't like this. And just like, you know, you listen to it like for 5 minutes, like, you know, I think like She Broke My Dick, that's song 2, I think, or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll just put this off to the side. And it was like maybe a year later, I put it back on. I was like, what the fuck was I thinking? Like, this is the best thing I've ever heard in my life. And then I kind of went backwards from there. I think with all. So it is kind of funny how that goes. But you know, we all kind of I don't know, you have those like poignant moments in your life that are like these major turning points. If you're into music, like I bet you guys can like remember the first place you were when you heard some of those songs, right? Like I have these like vivid memories of like I used to play like Sim City, I remember when I was a kid. And I used to put like Rancid and Out Come the Wolves on and just listen to it over and over. And so in my head, whenever I hear that record, I just like see Sim City in front of me. So
I did that with Wave Race 64 and some Offspring records. Ixnay, just a 2/7.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Well, that's amazing. Hey guys, like thank you so much for your time today. This has been so fun getting to chat with you. And yeah, like I said, like I love what you guys do. You guys are amazing musicians, amazing songwriters. I'm so, you know, honored to be able to chat with you. And hopefully we can get you up here to Edmonton at some point. But you know, even if not, you might see me down there at some point too. Like I'd love to come see you guys play. So
well, either way, if either of us are in each other's towns, let each other know.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Amazing. Well, thanks again for your time. I'm going to ask, you know, one last question. I know we've been talking about music and stuff lately, but do you have any advice out there or advice for dads out there who might be listening? Just like, you know, a little piece of advice. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Words of wisdom.
I actually just wrote this my friend is about to have a kid, and he's doing a Polaroid picture and a word of advice from all of his friends in this little book. And
that's a good idea.
This one for me and maybe to others out there, but this is going to sound really simple and very, I don't know, but don't waste your time worrying about the things that you can't control. And I mean, that's my little piece of wisdom.
Yeah,
for everybody.
Advice.
I would say, again, it's pretty generic, but no matter what happens, everything's going to be okay. It's going to be scary, and you don't know what to do, but it's going to be okay.
Yeah, it'll work out one day, one way or the other.
Just show up. You're going to be okay.
It's a great place to end it. Thanks,
guys.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Appreciate your time today.